Welcome to the Filmtrepreneur podcast, episode number 56. To me, not taking a risk is a risk. Robert Redford.
This is the Filmtrepreneur podcast, where we teach you the top strategies, tactics, and growth hacks that every indie filmmaker needs to know to make money with their films. We are the podcast that puts the business back into show business. And here's your host, Alex Ferrari.
Welcome to another episode of the Filmtrepreneur podcast. I am your humble and quarantined host, Alex Ferrari. Today's show is sponsored by Rise of the Filmtrepreneur, how to turn your independent film into a profitable business. It's harder today than ever before for independent filmmakers to make money with their films. From predatory film distributors ripping them off to huckster film aggregators who prey upon them, the odds are stacked against the indie filmmaker. The old distribution model of making money with your film is broken, and there needs to be a change. The future of independent filmmaking is the entrepreneurial filmmaker or the filmtrepreneur. In Rise of the Filmtrepreneur, I break down how to actually make money with your film projects and show you how to turn your indie film into a profitable business. With case studies examining successes and failures, this book shows you the step-by-step method to turn your passion into a profitable career. If you're making a feature film, series, or any other kind of video content, the Filmtrepreneur method will set you up for success. The book is available in paperback, ebook, and of course, audiobook. If you want to order it, just head over to www.filmbizbook.com. That's filmbizbook.com. Before we get started, guys, I set up a special link to help people affected by the coronavirus, and you can donate to Feed America. There is a lot of people in need out there, and Feed America is a great organization, and they're helping millions of people on a daily basis, and they also need your help. If you want to donate even $5, $10, it goes a long way. Head over to indiefilmhustle.com/help. So today on the show, we have Liz Manashil. She is a director of the movie Bread and Butter. And I wanted to have her on the show because I loved her story about how she was able to get the financing for the movie, how she put it together, how she was able to attract name talent, people that you actually recognize to her project, her tips, her techniques on how she was able to reach out to this cast, her experiences through distribution. She happens to be the manager of the Creative Distribution Initiative at Sundance, and she's going to talk passionately about that in a little bit. But I really wanted to get into the weeds with Liz and really just see her perspective on the state of independent film today. Oh, and also, did I mention that Liz is going to be completely transparent on how much she made distributing her film? She's going to go into detailed breakdowns of what the distributor is doing, how much she made, where she's making her money, where she's not making her money, and really give you guys an idea of what a movie of her budget actually will make in the marketplace. So you guys will get a sneak peek into what the distribution world is like for independent films. Without any further ado, here is my conversation with Liz Manashil. I'd like to welcome to the show Liz Manashil. How you doing?
Hey, I'm great. How are you?
Thank you for being on the show. I really appreciate it.
My gosh, thank you. This is a pretty cool opportunity for me, so I'm psyched.
Awesome. So let's start off with, how did you get in this crazy business, and why don't we have a real job?
Well, oh God. Okay, so I tell this story to anyone who wants to listen, and whether you want to listen or not, I'll tell it really quickly. Mm-hmm. I saw this movie when I was 16. It's a really pretentious French film called Stolen Kisses, and when I saw it,
it sounds pretentious.
Yeah, it's super pretentious. And I had this moment where the character looks at the lens, and I thought, I was 16, like the world revolves around you. I thought he was looking at me, mm-hmm. and I felt like a lightning bolt hit me, and I had to make movies. And that's why everything that I do is based off of this one ridiculous moment where I felt like I had to be in this crazy business. And so I went to film school, and I work at Sundance, and everything I do is film related.
And you went to USC, right?
I went to USC. Yeah.
That's a great. I've spoken there a couple times. It's like Wonderland when I went for the first time. I'm like, and there's the Lucas building, and there's the Spielberg building, and here's where John Carpenter, grabbed some stuff to go make Halloween. I'm like, oh Jesus.
Well, I call it the Las Vegas Hotel now because it transformed to this like ridiculous plastic looking place.
It is. It actually is. You're absolutely right with the big fountain and everything.
Yeah, I was there like. We had 1 year in the Las Vegas Hotel. All the other years we had an old building. We called it the old building. And I loved that building. That was a beautiful building because you had everything you needed, even if it didn't look flashy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And before those ruffians, Lucas and Spielberg came in and gave buildings.
Right. Well, it's kind of like use that money for something else. Like I get really frustrated when people waste money. I mean, you and I both know we're micro budget filmmakers. I want every dollar to go to something really useful.
Yeah, exactly. And buildings, but hey, you know what? Who are we to talk about that? They're USC, for God's sakes. So how did you get your awesome little film up, Bread and Butter, off the ground?
Well, I graduated from film school and I had a moment where I was like, hey, what am I going to do with my life? I really want to make a feature. I'm just going to do it. I'm going to make a movie. I crowdfunded while I didn't even really know what the budget of the film would be. I just crowdfunded. I made about $36,000 through crowdfunding.
That's awesome.
I'm really proud of that. It was in 2012 though, when it was a little bit easier.
Yes, I was going to say that's a lot for an indie movie now.
Yeah. And I found an investor through crowdfunding who was a colleague of mine who, for some reason, just wanted to get involved with investing in films. And she brought on her boss at the time to be a second investor who just wanted to help out a female director, actually. And then, we started cutting pages and cutting characters to fit the budget that we had access to. So you started crowdfunding, then you had an investor come in for the rest of the money, and the budget of the film was? It ended up being, it was about 70 for production and the 30 was for post. So it was 100 all in. And if you cut in distribution expenses, it was about 120.
Wow. That's a pretty big micro budget. I mean, in the grand scope of your first feature film, and I'm assuming you had directed a short or two before.
Yeah, well, I went to film school, but actually I studied documentary. So this was my first real fiction project that I put time and care into. Like at USC, you do little short projects, but nothing for more than a few weeks. So this was like actually my first real fiction, and it was terrifying.
I'm sure. So I just got to ask, on your first day. Well, first of all, how did you get your cast? Because that'll lead into that next question I had. How did you get this? The cast is awesome, really awesome cast. How'd you get them?
I could not afford a casting director, and so I cast it myself. And when you don't have money, sometimes you have time. So we took like a year and a half to cast our film. The name actors that I think people are kind of excited about when they find out the budget of the film and that's the first filmmaker is Bobby Moynihan and Lauren Lapkus.
Sure.
And we had many other actors who were incredibly talented and just as valuable, but in terms of Bobby and Lauren, they share a manager, and I reached out to Bobby directly and just wrote an offer letter to his team. And I met him, and I wrote him a letter that involved like lots of pictures of, me and films that I liked. And I tried to make it really warm and friendly. But it takes months, right? It takes months to break through those gates. And that's what we did. But not to get too long winded, but the lead actress in my film,
sure,
we got her through essentially. I wrote an article about how I was having trouble casting her role because it was a part that was really close to me. And she wrote a comment on that article. Like, I think she actually wrote me a direct email just saying like, I read your article. I really like it. By the way, if you ever want to bring me in, here's my reel. And we did, and she was perfect. So it was just one of those situations of kismet to find our lead actress. She just directly appealed to us, and she was perfect.
So a tip to filmmakers listening, if you're going to try to go after some sort of name talent or recognizable talent like Bobby and Lauren, And by the way, guys, Bobby Moynihan is from Saturday Night Live. He was on there for, God, I don't know how many years. He was hilarious. And Lauren Lapkus is, she just did Jurassic World, a little small indie movie as well. And if you see her face, she's one of those recognizable faces that she's been in 1,000 things. So when you're trying to go after that kind of caliber of talent, you have no money, you have no casting director. So you literally hit the heartstrings. It was your marketing plan.
Well, it's a combination of offer letters and heartstrings. So what I advise other filmmakers to do is to be a human and talk like a human all the time. So when you write letters to agents, don't sound like a robot or a machine who's trying to like name drop and, impress them in every opportunity. Really talk about how important that film is to make, how it's your top priority, and maybe drop a few things that makes you sound a little bit more legitimate in their eyes. And then ultimately, if you send an offer letter, they have to consider it. So it's a combination of, I think, warmth, hopeful warmth, and then, playing the system, which is drafting an offer letter with a lawyer and making them consider that offer. So
this was not like a letter, an offer letter that you kind of threw together. This was an actual letter that was put together with an attorney, and it was a real offer.
Yeah, it was a real offer. It was a deal memo. And one of my producers, my lead producer, is an entertainment lawyer. So that was invaluable. Also, that's if you're trying to put together a crew for micro budget, see if you know any entertainment lawyers who really want to get into producing, because you'll get a deal on all your contracts. And it's
awesome. That's a great advice.
She was incredibly helpful. She's a huge asset to our film.
Now, what was it like? You're arguably a first-time director doing a feature film, and you're working with this caliber of talent, and it's your first day on set. How are you doing?
I'm already a really anxious person. I don't know if you could tell from my fast talking and my breathiness, but I'm super on edge all the time. So when I was on set, I was very nervous. What's interesting though, which you know very well, is there's not actually a lot of directing that's involved in directing a feature, which I was super surprised by. People say this all the time. Everything's casting, right?
Yes.
If you cast the right actor, you really can take a step back. And every now and then when you feel something's off from your vision, you adjust things. But for the most part, I did not give a lot of notes. And so I got to have a little break in anxiety, especially, but I didn't learn that until after the first few days.
Yeah. When I shot Meg and I had this insane cast, it was honestly one of the first times I'd worked with an ensemble like that I was just one person that was good. They were all good. And it's so true. You just sit back and just capture the magic. I said I was just there to capture the lightning because it gave very little direction here and there because they just know they just know. It's amazing when you have a good actor and you're not trying to pull a performance out. You just kind of, hey, let's just go. It was so nice. So I'm assuming the same thing happened to you.
Absolutely. And I had a conversation with an actress who's going to be in my second feature. And she said something that I was taken aback by at the time, but now I completely understand. And she was saying when she was working with a director, she needs to be very forceful and ask for another take when she feels it's not right, because in her eyes, she feels her job is to replicate human behavior, and that the director's job had nothing to do with guiding her. She took on that onus. And I think as directors, we often feel like it's our responsibility to get the actor there. But it was interesting to hear that the actor thought it was her sole responsibility, and she needed the space to get there herself. So there's different ways of approaching it.
Every actor is different. It's so, when you're working with the actors, some actors want hand-holding. Some actors want the space to do it. And I interviewed a director who worked with John Malkovich on his first feature film.
Ooh, tell me what he said or she said.
And he basically, which was, I think, an amazing piece of a direction, if you will. He walked, because it's John Malkovich. I mean, it's John effing Malkovich. What are you going to do? And he's he came from the Kevin Smith camp. So, it's all dick and fart jokes, and it was a comedy and it was, all this kind of stuff. But he walked up first day And he said, Mr. Malkovich, John, how do you want me to direct you?
Huh.
And I thought that was such a brilliant way, because I asked him, like, how do you direct John Malkovich? And he's like, I don't know. I just walked up to him and I said, how do you want me to direct you? Because that's such a wonderful way of, because it's showing you're being humble in front of, obviously, I'm like, look, I know I hired you as an actor, but you're at John Malkovich. But we're here to do a job. How do you want to work? And I will adjust to you. Because, and I thought that was such a one, because every actor is different. Like imagine if you had Malkovich, Daniel Day, and Meryl Streep. Like all three of them have very different ways of performing. And how do you, that I would actually watch that movie.
But I think there's a fear that if you're not saying enough things to an actor, then you're not directing. And it's actually the confidence to not say anything that you need to have as a director, to have confidence in your vision and let other people do their jobs, which is hard but exciting at the same time. Without question.
And that is something that you just get with experience and age, because you just feel that confidence, just like, and professionals and seasoned pros, they can sense it. They can smell it very quickly on you. If you're just barking because you're insecure, and then that creates all sorts of havoc, or and everyone, especially the crew. My God, the crew can smell it like a mile away. If you know what you're doing or not, they smell blood in the water and you're done. I've seen it happen. I mean, on one shoot I had a poor kid. They threw as a first AD, and I was like, oh my God. And the crew ate him alive. Ate him. Because they were all seasoned guys, like from TV, TV guys, which are really seasoned, and and they just tore. And then at day 2, the guy's yelling. I'm like, dude, you gotta stop yelling, man. It's not good, because he was trying to do something. I was like, oh God. But yes, back to what we were talking about. This is just like two filmmakers just telling war stories. I love it.
Just gabbing.
Yes, exactly. Now, how many days did you shoot, by the way?
16, but I always say that I could have done it in 15.
That's awesome. And it was, I'm assuming 15. So you had what, 2 days, just 2 weeks, basically. You took 1 day off.
6 on, 1 off, 5 on, 2 off, 5 on, 2 off, I think, or I guess,
something like that.
Off. Yeah.
Got it. Now, did you encounter any problems? I know the answer is yes. Did you encounter any problems while shooting your project? And if any of them, what came out, like what sticks out to you in your memory?
I mean, I've been asked this before, and I gave an answer that I don't even know is true. Like, I feel like I heard that a crew member who I didn't really hire, died at some point during the course of the production, but not on our set. And now that I've told the story, like, I don't even know if it's true. I think it's turned into an old wives' tale within the space of like 6 months in my head. So, I mean, that stands out. Because
when a crew member dies, on set or off, generally is a standout of the film.
Yeah, like totally, like, of course. But I'm still not sure if it happened or not. And we had a camera problem one day. But again, like, I was really protected. And I would say the major problems that I experienced were internal problems where I felt doubtful, or I was worried that we even had a movie in the first place, or
you're an artist.
Decision. Yeah, just all the personal, emotional problems that we all are battling.
We all have that. I just saw the Martin Scorsese masterclass, and he's like, if you don't physically feel ill after the first cut, you're not a filmmaker. And he's like, it's Martin Scorsese, and he's talking about it like, hey, I don't even know if we got a movie here. I'm like, you're Martin Scorsese, you'll be fine. But in his mind, he didn't even know if he had cuts. Like when he shoots, like, Raging Bull, he's like, I don't know. Maybe we got something. I don't know.
Well, you're plagued by doubts, but it's like, when you write the film and you have a feeling for what the film's about, like you feel the character, you feel whether you write it or you read it, you have some sort of abstract sense of what the film will be and how it will be received. Like, I didn't get that until a year ago, and our film has been out for, 2, almost 3 years. Like, you still don't know if you have a film like years down the line. I think sometimes right now is the only time I feel confident, where I was like, oh no, that was a thing and it happened and I'm really proud of it.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, what camera did you shoot on, by the way?
It was it was a red. I think it was,
Didn't have to tell me.
I think it was the scarlet, but I'm not positive.
Okay. Okay. So you shot on the scarlet. And now, did you run into any issues in post-production?
Well, my editors are saints. I had 2 editors who each cut half the film and then swapped so that each could get their hands on the other's work. And then essentially our cutting style became a combination of the 2 of them. So we didn't have problems other than the fact that we had 2 very different editing styles come together. So there'd be moments where I would want, a really long take, and my editor, who has a short attention span, would cut it in half. And then my second editor would split the difference, and we had to kind of negotiate the pace a little bit. But like no technical problems. We had an amazing colorist, amazing editors, wonderful sound team. I mean, we lucked out, but it takes a lot of patience, right? Like I wish we could have taken 3 weeks and edited this whole film, but it took several months, and that's super normal.
Right. It is super normal. It is super.
Again, if you're micro budget, like you don't have any control over when your editors want to edit because they're essentially doing you a favor. And we were lucky that they were willing to do us that favor.
That's awesome. Now let's talk a little bit about distribution.
Okay. Yay.
Yes. Distribution. And you are a big advocate for transparency in distribution and the horrors of distribution.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about, first of all, who was your distributor on the film?
We worked with The Orchard. So I have quite a history in distribution. I worked for a distribution consultant for 3.5 years. His name is Peter Broderick. And
I know Peter. I don't know him personally, but I know the name.
Yeah. He's kind of fancy.
He's kind of fancy. That's great.
It was very cool. Yeah. So he helped me. He negotiated my distribution deal with The Orchard, but The Orchard found us because they were looking at Lauren Lapkus's IMDb page. Like they were just looking at recent projects that she was involved in, and they reached out to us. So that's like one of the major things I talk about when I talk to emerging filmmakers is like, even if you make micro budget, you have access to talent, and that talent will change the future of your film. Like we would not have had this fabulous distributor reach out to us had it not been for our cast. Like we played Cleveland and Woodstock and Phoenix Film Festival. We played about 13 to 14 film festivals, but none of them were Tribeca or Cannes or Sundance or South by. So it's not as if A24 was chomping at the bit to distribute our film.
Everybody wants A24.
Well, they were so cool.
They are the cool kid on the block, aren't they? They're the jock at high school, aren't they? They really are. They're the cheerleader.
The Orchard's like, who would it compare? I feel like The Orchard's like the one who's like the lead in all the plays. So they're like popular too, but they're more creative.
Yes, exactly.
A little different.
Yeah. By the way, for people who don't, for the audience that doesn't know who The Orchard is, they do a lot of the Duplass brothers work, and they're a really good distribution house, and they're a good distributor from my experience. Yeah.
I've been very happy with them, and they wanted a digital deal, so I was like immediately insulted because I think every filmmaker thinks
theatrical, 5,000 theaters,
theatrical, exactly, or give me an advance, or there's all these terms that you're expecting, and they were like, no advance. You're just going to get a digital deal with us, and they were the best option we had, and they turned out to be a really good option because. As I'm pretty open about, we have grossed, in our gross revenue, we have recouped our production budget. We will probably never recoup in net revenue. And I'm getting really nerdy here.
We'll get into all of that. We'll get into all of that.
But like we're doing well, which is which you need to do if you're making a first film if you want to make a second one. So
right now. Can you talk a little bit about deliverables?
Oh, God.
And we'll get back into distribution, but deliverables, the evil of the deliverables, because it's something that literally always sneaks up on filmmakers. And they just like, oh, I just need a quick time, right? I'm like, well.
Well, I didn't even think about it. I don't think filmmakers really think about it. They don't even know that you need to from my experience, I didn't know I needed to prep deliverables. I didn't understand how the distributor would get the film from me and then put it on various platforms, because it's my first feature. So they sent me like,
list.
They sent me a list, and then they sent me to an FTP that they had, it was like an Aspera or something like that. And I had to kind of figure it out on my own. And my amazing editors, they created, the master and the digital master, and they helped me get all the deliverables. But ultimately, the upload was what was the most terrifying, hardest thing of everything, was just finding an internet connection that could have done an upload for like a 6-hour upload. Because that's what they need. They need you to like take this massive 100 to 500 gig file or whatever it is and get it to them. So
flash drive in the mail.
Ultimately, that's what I did. And I should have just started with that. I mean, I'm crazy.
They said, do you want to upload? I'm like, I've got experience in this field. I said, no, I'll just send you a flash drive. And it just works so much nicer.
Because you're super smart. And that's why you did that. Yep.
Now, as far as other deliverables are concerned, music cue sheets, a chain of title, all that kind of stuff you had to put together as well? Or you had your producer help you with all that?
Well, my producers are lovely and they worked really hard, but it was me pretty much overseeing a lot of distribution myself because it's micro budget. They moved on to other projects. I really didn't want to bother them. They were helpful when I felt like they could do things that I couldn't do. But again, when you're doing a micro budget project, you don't know what those deliverables are going to be. So I went to my sound team, I went to my music team, and I approached them only once we had distribution with what we needed. And so they all had to work backwards. That music cue sheet we had to put together last minute. All the files with all the files from the sound team.
5.1, all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah, I had to pay separately a stipend that I wasn't expecting in order just to even get those files. So that was fun.
That shouldn't have been the way it goes. That's usually negotiated at the beginning of that deal. So next time.
Next time, there are lots of things that I've learned. When you talk to your crew members, make sure you figure out what you're going to need from them at the end of the production and make sure they're prepared to give it to you. Absolutely.
Without question. Now, can you discuss the deals that you got through Orchard? And because you're being fully transparent, so I'm being very rude in asking all of these numbers. So I never ask filmmakers. It's like asking your weight. You don't say it. You don't ask someone there that situation. So for everybody who's listening, I'm not being rude. Me and Liz spoke about this earlier. So can you talk a little bit about the deals you got? What kind of money you got for those deals so people can kind of really get an idea of what they can expect in the marketplace with a cast like this and also the genre this is, which is a comedy drama, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, I call it a dramedy. I actually call it an anti-romantic comedy, but that's a little specific.
That's a little harder to sell as far as genre is concerned.
Well, yeah. Going back to what you were saying, though, I think it's really funny that that you were worried about being rude because our department at Sundance, which I won't get into too much because I could go on forever, but
sure.
We're all about data transparency and we really want to decriminalize filmmakers talking about all these details because it feels like we're not supposed to. And actually, to segue to my answer for you, I'm not allowed to share a lot of information still. So what I did is I went to the Orchard and I said, hey, can you break down all the revenue for me? Can you tell me exactly why we've been successful? I'd like to write a story about it. And even then, the only numbers I'm allowed to talk about are my gross revenue. So that's just all the money that we made without the distributor taking a cut or the platforms taking a cut. So that's as of several months ago, it was $96,000. And we made the film for 120. Yeah. So
now that's gross, and that's before anyone takes a cut.
Yes, and it's actually several months ago, and we landed another deal since then, so it would be higher than that now.
Now, can you talk about what sales you got? Did you sell TVOD, all that kind of stuff, without the numbers?
Yeah, I can talk about that. I mean, we're on all of the transactional platforms that are open, so that would be the iTunes, Xbox, Google Play, Vudu,
Amazon, right?
Yeah, Amazon Video. I retain the right to sell DVDs and streams from my website. Like that's something I negotiated. So I'm doing physical between me and my editor. We're doing physical sales, but I also do VHX links from my website, so you can buy directly from me.
Now, have you sold DVDs?
Yes, I've sold. I have a spreadsheet. I probably sold around 50. I mean, it's really not that many.
Sure. Are you making them as you go, or did you have them pre-built?
We've done like 2 manufacturing stints, and then I'm actually just about to sign a deal with Allied Von for manufacturing on demand for a DVD.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's been 2 years since our release, and they reached out to us because I wrote this article about being transparent about how much money we made. And they were like, hey, do you want to do physical? And I was like, weirdly phrased.
And what was the name of that company?
Allied Von.
Allied. I'll get that information because I want to put that in the show notes.
Yeah. So they do manufacturing on demand. So it's not like doing thousands of DVDs that you're not going to sell. It's based off of, how much you actually are going to sell. So the overhead is much less.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we did all of those open transactional and EST platforms, and then we did a Hulu deal, which is like I'm sure for you,
it's huge,
pride of my life, really.
It's a badge that I wear with great honor. When I got that call and they're like, "Hey, we sold you a Hulu deal," I'm like, "What?"
Yeah,
it's like getting a Netflix deal. Like, what? What?
Yeah,
for like a little indie movie. Like, are you kidding?
It's the new theatrical, I think.
It is
new bragging rights.
It is.
Well, it's funny. My distributor didn't call me up like they called you, and said they have this deal. They were like, Liz, we have some news. We're really surprised. We weren't expecting this. We're really they were shocked that Hulu even wanted the film. And I just think that's so funny. It's like we all have low self-esteem about my film.
I'm so glad my distributor has low self-esteem about my film. It's great.
It was kind of a shock to me too. So Hulu, and then we got 2 airline deals. So that was a total.
That's crazy. Like international airlines, right?
One was Royal Jordanian. Yeah, both international. Royal Jordanian Airlines, which I think is hilarious.
That is.
Because who would have thought
that you sold Jordan?
Yeah, who would have thought that they really thought, who would have thought they would have seen value? I love them now.
Yes.
And then Aer Lingus. So we were in Ireland and, wherever Aer Lingus flies, and then flying over the Middle East. But they censored a few scenes from the film because we get a little sassy. So that was something I was willing to abide by in order to get on planes.
Sure, of course. Yeah, you can't make it you gotta do an airline cut.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was a good. Those are amazing. If you can get airline deals, those are nice.
And that's something that we always talk about self-distribution and filmmakers working with aggregators and all that fun, nerdy distribution stuff. But aggregation is still not figured out airlines. So that's something that I really look forward to, a time where we have more of a direct channel to airlines other than through a distributor.
No, and same here. I've self-distributed digitally here in the States, but I am using a traditional distributor for international. And
cool.
And it's been great. Because I get to have the power to do whatever I want here and for my film, but yet I'm getting opportunities selling it in different territories and stuff that I would have never gotten doing by myself. So I think I agree with you. There is a balance to be made. And it also depends on your movie, also your audience. And we could talk for hours about that, about how to actually self-distribute a film. But yeah, I think it's very interesting. That's why I wanted to kind of have you on the show too, to talk about your path and your journey through distribution. And where else did you sell it?
We got a few paid TV deals, mostly in the Middle East again. I'm like, you're huge in Jordan.
You're huge in Jordan.
It's right. Like the Middle East, North Africa region, the MENA region. There was actually there's a SVOD company, a small SVOD company it's called Sundance International or something. It's called something with the word Sundance in it. It's not Sundance Now, but it's something completely, it's run by AMC or something. And that was so weird to me that I work at Sundance, and Sundance is also the name of this company that was my film in the Middle East. So that was a sign. But yeah, so we got a lot of little deals, little pay TV deals, little airline deals that really contributed to us feeling like we made a dent. It was really exciting.
That's amazing. And I'm sure you attribute a lot of these sales to your cast.
Yeah. I mean, well, The Orchard and their pitching, everything that they did to pitch the film, of course. But I think comedians, I think comedy people, sometimes when you're on your plane, maybe you just want a comedy to escape into. I've been trying to figure it out exactly why we got the deals that we did, but it's got to be the recognizability of our cast and that it was just such a good movie that everyone.
Obviously.
Yeah, obviously. No, I feel you. Since having faces in my movie, I don't think I would have gotten Hulu without the faces. I mean, I just don't think so. So the recognizability of those faces really, and they're not bankable stars, and they're the first ones to tell you they're not monster bankable stars. They're just recognizable faces, and at a certain budget level, that makes sense. At $200, at a $2, $3, $4, $5 million movie. You can't. You need to have something else going on. Well, I like to use a mix because I feel like as filmmakers, there's still that romantic notion of putting in what you think is this great talent who hasn't been recognized yet.
Sure.
And like developing a relationship where you guys grow together as director and actor. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, the bankable actors who are willing to do your project and collaborate with you. For me, it's like great to see if you can find a way to do a hybrid casting. Mm-hmm. Like my boyfriend's an actor. And so I kind of like try to fit him in roles, but then I also am super honest with him where I'm saying like, Sean, you're not good for this role because I need X in this role in order to get distribution. So it becomes like a way too honest conversation sometimes about what our relationship means and what's possible for him and whatnot.
You are married. You're married, but your boyfriend is an actor, so God bless you. I dated actresses when I was younger, and no. I'm good.
He's my partner. Yeah. It's a lot.
Maybe it's different with actors, but with actresses, it was rough when I was in my 20s.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I'm not going to say anything, but I know what you're talking about.
You're feeling me. I got you.
Yeah.
I love my actresses. I mean, Jill is one of my best friends in the world, but I told her, I was like, you're crazy. She's like, oh, I know this. I was like, I never. She's like, oh, I understand.
I mean, you have to be a little crazy to have the brilliance to perform. Like
and she's a comic and she's a stand-up comic as well. So there's that whole other world. But yes, you have to be a little bit nuts to be in front of the camera. I do believe, it's a special human being. And that's why I love actors so much because what they do is so magical to me. It's something I just can't do.
Yeah. And we get to witness it and it's very cool.
Oh God, it's your front row, row. If you do it right, meaning that you're not like sitting in a village 15 miles away and you're there actually with the performance. I like to do it Cassavetes styles, kind of right in there with them. I'm usually behind the camera, so I'm literally right there with them. That's kind of the way I like to work. But my back doesn't like it. So my back doesn't, but I love it. So what is the biggest lesson you learned making this film?
Okay. I think the biggest lesson for me is that making a feature is not impossible. It's not mystical. Mm-hmm. There's no, I don't know. I've never read Moby Dick, but I always compare it to like the white whale.
Great.
It's like you think about making a feature until you've made a feature and it becomes elusive and it becomes scary and all you want to do is complete this one thing. Once you complete it, you realize, oh, it's just a long short. It's a long short with, more money invested. And for some reason, people want to talk to me more and take me a little bit more seriously.
Right.
But ultimately, I thought that I had to have this like unknown quality or this specific mysterious talent in order to make a feature. And I didn't. You just have to really, really want to do it. And you can.
No, without question. I felt the same way. I felt that was like a dragon. It was this monster dragon that I had to slay. And, and if it's my first feature, it has to be, Reservoir Dogs or Mariachi or Slacker or something huge.
Oh, the pressure you put on yourself is so unfortunate because it's not necessary at all.
No, because it's not, you can't do that. it is what it is. And some people it pops, like those guys I just talked about. And others, it's just like, look at Nolan, Christopher Nolan's first feature. Got rejected from Sundance. It barely got into Slam Dance. And he's doing okay now.
But also just like, look at me, like I get to talk to you.
Right.
Like that's genuinely how I feel. I'm like, this is really cool. It's opened this door for me where I get to talk to other people who I respect and it allows me to share something with the world. And any filmmaker who reaches out to me via email, I set a time to talk with them about making their first feature.
That's awesome.
I mean, I don't doubt that you probably do the exact same thing.
I try. I get a little diluted with emails, as you can imagine.
You get really busy. I get it. You're fancy as well.
No, I'm not that fancy, but I try to answer questions through the podcast so it reaches a multitude of people. But I do the best I can to respond to everybody that emails me, and it's really remarkable. I don't know if you got this or not, but I get emails about hope that, I give them hope and the work that I'm doing is giving them hope. And because of the podcast, they made their first feature because I gave them the courage. And I'm like, wow, that's massive. And even that little bit of help that you give an artist, like Kevin Smith says, it costs effing nothing to encourage an artist. It's true.
That's wonderful. That's really cool that you get those messages. I'm running currently right now a micro budget mentorship.
That's
where
awesome.
I picked 3 films and I'm basically just trying my best with the time that I have just to like push them to get things done so that they can make their first feature. Awesome. And, maybe in a few months we'll open it up again if anyone listening wants to do this with me.
Be careful what you wish for.
But like basically, went before I made the feature. There's, as you know, there's so much that you have to do and it's terrifying and it's overwhelming, but I guarantee like it is absolutely worth all the pain and frustration. It is the thing I am most proud of is making this movie. And, even though I have the like amnesia of all the pain, it's coming back to me bit by bit on getting ready with this second film. And I still think it's going to be worth it to make a second one.
It's like giving birth. And I didn't give birth, but I forgot all of those first 2 or 3 years of my daughter's life. That it's so painful. You don't sleep, the abuse. And all of a sudden, like they're turning like 4 or something. Like my wife and I'm like, hey, it wasn't that bad, was it? And we're like, it was and I turned to her, I'm like, it was absolutely horrible. Are you kidding me? I love my daughters, but are you serious? She's like, yeah, I know. It was pretty rough.
But worth it now.
Worth it. It's a good investment. They're annuities. I hope they pay off soon. So
18 years.
In 18 years, hopefully. They got to get a job. I mean, seriously, they're just a financial drain on this family. But anyway. Now, in your opinion, what is the biggest challenge you see filmmakers facing today?
Distribution and marketing, mainly marketing. This is a big thing, what we do every day. But with the overflow of content and the market being saturated, it's really hard to set yourself apart. I know I sound like a suit when I say that, but I really mean it because it's so hard to get attention as a filmmaker these days. It's just, so like my big thing is when you make a film, from my vantage point, filmmakers are not making a lot of money making movies, like really not making any money at all making movies. So I encourage filmmakers to make the movie for themselves, to do it as like some sort of emotional experience because they feel like they have to do it. And then to try their best to get as much attention as possible when they do finish it, but to not hold out hope that they will get anything in return. Unfortunately, sorry.
I know. I teach something slightly different, or I kind of preach something a little different. It was like, you got to build your audience up, provide value to that audience, and let them grow with you slowly but surely. And it takes years. It's not something that happens overnight.
That's the gospel. What you just said is the exact thing that we say and what I truly believe in. But when you talk to a filmmaker who doesn't want to write a newsletter or doesn't want to write on Facebook, it's really hard. So I say, I can't change everyone to become like a little annoying self-promoter like I am. So at least I can say, well, here are your expectations. Bring your expectations lower. And then if if you really want to make a difference with this film, like you were talking about, you have to hustle and you have to bring people in. You have to be really inclusive.
Without question. Without question. Now, can you talk a little bit about why it's so important to produce micro-budget films and why it's so important to independent cinema in general and this kind of sea of quote-unquote independent films, the importance of doing micro-budget films for filmmakers, especially when they're starting out?
Yeah, there's so many reasons. I mean, the first reason that I thought of is, I've never experienced, major institutional sexism, but that's because I've always controlled the budget for my film. Mm-hmm. And the way I control the budget for my film is keeping the budget low and being the person who holds the purse strings. So, I mean, that's something I could be wrong. Maybe I just have been really lucky and I'm going to be go through something really horrific in 5 minutes. But I think part of it has to do with having the control of the money. B, I think there's a lot of financial waste in this world where people are spending money that they don't need to. And I'm not saying, I know we're going to get into this because it's crew members deserve to be paid. Actors deserve to be paid. But when you're making a labor of love, it's a different situation where everyone is volunteering to make those sacrifices. So I hope that I'm clear in saying that when people are being wasteful financially, I'm not talking about, regular
food.
salaries.
Food. That's what a waste. They could bring their own food, damn it. No,
right.
Of course
but
not.
The way that the system supports the special treatment of talent and, just like these multi-million-dollar salaries, it's just absurd. So I encourage people to be involved with filmmaking that comes from the heart and is not wasteful financially, where you have creative and financial control over everything. I mean, and then also it's sometimes the only way to make any content is to make micro budget, because I've never had an investor, just come up to me and say, let me give you money for your work. And that's not normal. And I think that I thought it would be normal if I made a feature. I thought people would be like, oh, I would like to invest in you.
If it was 1982, maybe, but not now.
It doesn't happen anymore. No. So, my boss, Peter, was talking to Sean Baker a long time ago.
Yeah, I love Sean.
I don't know him, and that's really cool. That anyway, so I'm going to paraphrase the story, but basically, by doing micro budget content, he was allowed to produce a lot more work than friends of his who waited to be anointed or waited to be granted those opportunities. Micro budget allows you to start yesterday.
Yeah, agreed. I've spoken to Sean, and he's I don't call him a buddy, but I've spoken to him many times. He's an awesome guy, and I'm hoping to get him on the show because I'm dying to see his new movie that everyone's talking about with William Dafoe is going to get nominated. And when I had him on the show last time, he's like, "Yeah, I'm doing this movie in Florida. I'm shooting 35," and I'm like, "Oh, great. We're in Florida," because I'm from Florida and all this kind of stuff. And now the trailer comes out. I'm like, "Damn you, Sean! Damn you, man! Jesus!" He's such a talented filmmaker. He's such a talented filmmaker, and humble. Such a humble soul. He's a very humble soul. I went off track. What we were talking about just went on the Sean Baker
budget, the purpose,
yeah, exactly. And that was what I stopped. That's why I waited myself. I waited so long to be anointed till I finally said, "Hey, I'm just going to go out and do it." And next year I hope to do some more as well. And it gives you the power. It's the whole Joe Swanberg, Mark Duplass roadmap. I'm just going to make movies, and I'm just going to go, and I don't care, and I'm just going to keep going and try to keep pounding it. And micro budget is the way to do that. But I think a lot of filmmakers also get a little too grandiose, and they try to make The Hobbit on $10,000, and that generally doesn't work. And I'm not trying to be discouraging, but it won't work.
It won't. I agree. Unless you're a visual effects artist who's also a director.
And even then, $10,000 is not going to do it. It's going to take you 7 years to pull that off.
That's a very good point.
But yeah, you can be ambitious depending on your resources. I mean, I have my own resources in post-production, so I could do certain things that other filmmakers have to pay for. But still, I think ambition in the scope of their stories, I think a lot of times is what catches filmmakers off guard and it causes them to fail, where is if you can do it like Robert Rodriguez did, who did a great action movie, El Mariachi, but he took the resources he had with him. A Mexican town, a turtle, some guns, and a guitar case. And he made a movie, but that was his set of circumstances.
Well, and my next feature is a science fiction feature,
Nice.
and which I'm really excited by because I recently became a nerd, so it's like really up my alley right now. But all of the things I'm doing are to keep costs low, even though it's genre. So it's time travel, but the time is 2016 and then 2040. You know, it's
oh my God, God bless. Oh, geez, you're going. You're trying to make 2040. Oh, that's going to be awesome.
It's one location. It's, you know, the wormhole that we're creating in the film is going to be in an apartment, you know, like, and probably off screen. Like there's lots of different things that you need to manage creatively and to find different substitutions for if you want to be that like dynamic filmmaker with a really high concept idea or whatever. Like there are hacks, but you know, absolutely think through it thoroughly, because if you're trying to build an entire Middle Earth, that's going to be real tough.
It's going to be a tough situation, and you can get there eventually, you know, but not your first time out. All these guys, I mean, if you look at Peter Jackson's first movie, which was a micro budget horror movie, which was a slasher, gory movie. You know, you look at it, it looked like something like Evil Dead almost. It had that Evil Dead vibe to it. I forgot what the name of it was. It escapes me. But I remember the story when Bob Shea, who used to run New Line, said, yeah, we're going to finance these 3 Lord of the Rings movies. And then they saw that movie. They said, oh my God, what have we done? Because there's nothing to say that that guy is going to be able to pull this off. Now, what advice would you give a filmmaker seeking a distributor for the first time with their first movie?
Well, it's interesting because I used to really want to advocate for filmmakers reaching out to distributors, but now I'm not so sure. I kind of feel like you should build your audience. I believe in film festivals and I believe in the power of film festivals. I believe in the power of publicists. And I think if you grow your audience and maybe get an IndieWire article about it and maybe cast it properly, the distributors will come to you. And our big thing that we talk about is doing your due diligence with distributors and talking to all the filmmakers who have worked with them before and sussing out like a detective whether these are good partners or not. Very often a distributor, I've just heard a lot of horror stories of distributors who take advantage of filmmakers. They don't provide report. I know.
What? Shocking.
They don't provide reporting and they don't understand the audience. So like the one question you ask when a distributor approaches you is like, who do you think the audience is and how are you going to market this film? And if they give you a lot of like vague crap about, you know, your audience is everybody or yours is a digital audience or something that's really general, that kind of tells you they're not targeting anyone and targeting specific audiences like exactly what people need to do these days.
Right.
So doing your research is really important.
Now, what advice would you give a filmmaker who's wanting to break into the business?
Well, film school was really great for me, but I don't recommend it for anyone else because it's super expensive. And I think you can get the same experience. You can replicate that experience outside of film school. The problem is taking the time you need to like figure out what stories you want to tell and who your teammates are going to be. So if you can do that on the weekends, I'd encourage you to do it. But I think the best advice that I never took, but I think the best advice is to make a lot of shorts and don't show them to anyone. Like just make a lot of things with your phone or, you know, with an old, you know, with a DSLR or with an old handy cam or whatever it is, edit it yourself and don't show them because once you show it, you get deterred, you start feeling bad. It's never going to be as good as you think it is in the beginning. And then once you feel like you have something good enough to show, to start to build that audience and start to make your name as a filmmaker. But I think it's all about, you know, really making a lot of crap as much as possible and getting that out of your system.
The Robert Rodriguez method.
Sure.
He made 40 shorts before he made it.
Well, that's great.
And he's like, yeah, just get them all out of the way. Get all that crap out of the way. So
and make your mistakes.
Make your mistakes quietly, and don't make it on your first big feature if you can help it.
Yeah. And I was not an advocate for the short film. Like if you were to ask that question to me like 6 months ago, I would have been like, don't make any shorts, just make your feature, because it takes a lot of time and resources and money. But I just made a short that I really enjoyed doing. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot to audience building that's really effective in short films, because people will watch short films if you send it to them. Mm-hmm. They're not going to sit there for 90 minutes and watch your feature unless they're like, that's their Friday night, or that's their favorite actor, or whatever it is. So
now, can you tell me the book that had the biggest impact on your life or career?
Oh, wow. Jane Eyre. Jane Eyre's my favorite book, and it's because it's like an awkward, ugly girl. And I was like, I understand this character. Like, there's not a lot of stories of like the awkward girl that are done with like true respect for her, mm-hmm. and where she's not the comedic foil. Mm-hmm. And so Jane Eyre was pretty, and she's a feminist archetype. She's super cool. She didn't, so that was really important to me. It's movies like that where it's books like that where you read it and you're like just shaken out of your comfort zone, and you realize there's a lot more potential for you as an individual that you don't get to see on a regular basis. So. Very
cool. Now, what is the lesson that took you the longest to learn, whether in the film business or in life? Yes, there's a deep.
This is so funny. God, longest lesson to learn. I probably still haven't learned it. I think too very often I stray into my movie, or this is mine, or I did this.
Ego.
And I forget to give the credit where it deserves. And I still think that I have stock answers when I talk to other people about bread and butter, mm-hmm. that aren't fully attributing credit to the people who made the film with me. Mm-hmm. So like especially my lead actress, Chrissy, who was like just a major part of that film. I always like will talk about Bobby and Lauren, and I don't talk about Chrissy enough.
Right.
So just these things where I feel like I forget to give credit where credit is due.
Good. And 3 of your favorite films of all time.
This is fun. Okay, Broadcast News, because it's my favorite film of all time.
Albert Brooks is a genius.
Yeah, Albert Brooks is amazing in that. Silence of the Lambs, because you whenever it's on TV, you can't not watch it. It's just stupendous. Mm-hmm. And Sherman's March. I've only seen it once, mm-hmm. but I just remember just being like, I can't believe this is a movie. This is really magical and vulnerable and exciting. So those are 3 good movies. Probably, I don't know if I'd give the same answer twice, but
of course, no, it always changes depending on the day. But as of today, at this moment in time, those are the 3 movies. Now, where can people find you online, your Twitter and website?
I really like to encourage people to email me. It sounds silly.
Do you seriously? I'll put your email in the show notes.
Please do. I do it everywhere I go. Everywhere I go, I give my email out freely. It's just my name, liz.manashil@gmail.com.
Okay.
Or you could do Manashil. I mean, I have like 5 different email addresses. Mm-hmm. And the reason I do that, it's selfish reasons. I run a newsletter, mm-hmm. And I want people to read what I have to say. It's mm-hmm. Me talking about distribution and marketing and my film and other people's films. It's mm-hmm. just, me spewing my thoughts. But also if people hear something or they want to talk about anything, I want them to be able to reach me. Mm-hmm. So my email is like number 1 priority. B is lizmanashil.com or at Liz Manashil Twitter, or friend me on Facebook, mm-hmm. or really any way you want to get in touch, I'm open to it.
I'll put it all in the show notes. Liz, thank you so much for being so honest and transparent with your distribution journey and the making of your awesome little film. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're lovely. Thank you so much.
It was such a pleasure speaking to Liz and speaking to a filmmaker who you could just tell is so passionate about filmmaking and so passionate about telling good stories. and passionate about not only about the art of it, but the business of it, the distribution aspect of it, and how we can get our films, our stories out into the world. So I really want to thank Liz for taking the time out to talk to the tribe, and I hope you guys got something out of it. I know I did. I learned a bunch of stuff by talking to her, and she was an absolute pleasure. If you want links to anything we spoke about in this episode, head over to the show notes at filmtrepreneur.com/056. And before we go, I wanted to remind you that my new course on film distribution called Film Distribution Confidential, What Predatory Distributors Don't Want You to Know, is available in beta form right now. If you sign up now, you get a massive discount on the course, as well as early access, and you get to work with me on building the course of your dreams as far as film distribution is concerned. So if you want early access and amazing discount, please head over to indiefilmhustle.com/let-me-in. Thank you so much for listening, guys. As always, be that filmtrepreneur. I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening to the Filmtrepreneur podcast at filmtrepreneur.com.